Hello, everyone. I am Clara Gadalho, an ML engineer here at TensorOps, and today I'm here with you to go through a tutorial on how to build an agent. We have covered this topic before since it's a super trendy topic right now, with videos by Miguel Neves and some blog posts made as well. But this time will be different since we'll be going to use some code example to actually build a simple agent. And we will be using LLM Studio, our open source library, and LandGraph as libraries to help us go through it easier. So, what will we cover today? A simple agent architecture, it will be React, and the three main parts of building a simple agent: agent tools, memory, planning, and then obviously we'll be learning how to use LLM Studio and LandGraph to do so. And yeah, by the end, you'll have a functioning agent with which you can impress all your colleagues with. So, what is a React agent? Basically, you have your user that needs to interact with the LLM, in this case, an agent. And inside here, what we have is the LLM. It can be any model that you choose that has a reasoning loop with this React architecture that it does reasoning and acting interleaved. So you don't just need to do all the thinking and then using the tools, it will actually understand when to call it to, use it to gather more information, and then build your final answer that you need to give back to the user. And for that, it has access to tools with which the agent can actually interact with your system, do API calls, maybe just a simple function that you need, anything like that. And then you have the memory with which it can have information about previous calls and things that you've told it before. So yeah, this is a basic agent overview of what we'll be building today. And what will be our use case? We will be building a travel assistant. I don't think I'm the only one. Sometimes I'm planning a trip with some friends and I have the dates and I have where I want to go, but I actually needed to create an itinerary. And this is a perfect example of where an agent could be useful. I don't want just a simple LLM to tell me some general tips. I actually want it to look at prices for hotels, the booking websites where I should be looking for to get tickets for activities and stuff like that. So it's a perfect example to get a good, interesting example. And why should we use libraries such as LandGraph to do so? This is an easy way to get an agent system working fast since LandGraph abstracts a lot of what is needed to build an agent from us. It's a graph-based framework that streamlines the whole process, and it has a lot of great features since it simplifies development. The framework is very modular, and it's easy to understand how to build an agent with building blocks. So yeah, let's code without further ado. Here is my Visual Studio, and I have a pre-built Python notebook that I have with the cells empty that I'll be going through with you. So as just a small reminder, you do need to have some things installed before you start, such as Python 3.10 and the libraries that you'll be using, in this case, LangChain, LangGraph, requests, python.env, and of course LLM Studio installed. And then you need the API keys for the model you use. We'll be having a weather API, so if you want to use that, you should have an API key valid for the weather bits API and also an API key for Tavily search to be able to search the web with your model. So yeah, after you've had all these pre-requirements done, we can go ahead and start. So after you do that, our step one is just importing all the dependencies and getting the environment variable set. So yeah, make sure you have a .m file where you put the API keys that I said before. So let's just run that real quickly. Yeah, and we will have everything that we need to use throughout this notebook. Then the first actual code that we need to do is setting up our LLM. And this is where we'll be using LLM Studio. Why, you might ask? Well, since you might want to start with GPT, but then, well, should I try my agent with a Gemini model? But with LLM Studio, you can use it as a router and just simply call the different models using the same structure without needing to change any other code. So let's start with that. So I just need to do LLM equals LLM. And in this case, I'll be using OpenAI. So I just needed to do it like that. And then I'll create a model with LLM Studio, which is basically a wrapper of LangChain for LLM Studio. So you can use the LangChain methodologies with LLM Studio. And I have to specify the model that I want to use. In this case, it will be GPT-4o. Oops. And yeah, like this, we have the model that we'll be using with our agent. Now, the step right after this is trying to define our tools, the tools that we'll be calling with our agent. The first tool will be something super simple, just a way that our agent can access the current time in the system. Because if I want to know what activities I want to do in, let's say, 2 weeks, I want it to be able to know what day it is today, so it can guess when will be my other activities. So let's try this function. For that, we need to put this decorator tool. So LandGraph recognizes this as a tool for it to use, and let's call it get system date. This function will actually return a string, and actually this suggestion is all good. I'll just need to add a doc string here at the beginning. So the agent actually knows what this tool does. So it is required that you put this doc string at the beginning of each tool function. Like so. And I'll actually just make this a string as well. So I put the current date is, and I'll put here the date, close my string. And just like that, this is our first super simple tool. And we can add more complex tools. And some tools are actually already built by LangChain. For example, you can use Stavely Search to search the web with your agent. And for that, I only need to import it, which is super convenient. You don't have to do any heavy lifting whatsoever just to have search incorporated in your agent. So let's just import it here. What I want is this, and I import Stavely search results. And here I'll set a maximum of results of 3 so we don't overwhelm our model. And like that, this tool is pre-built for us, so no need to add any extra steps. And now let's imagine it's quite useful for a travel assistant agent to know the weather for the place that we want to go to. So let's add also a get weather tool. And for this, we will be using the API that I showed you before, WeatherBit API. And for this, since it's not required for agent, I'll just paste in some code that I have pre-built for you so we don't lose a lot of time for that. Again, we have the doc string explaining what this tool does, and then we have the code for the string that will be returned with our weather. All good. And now we go to the fun part, which is actually creating the agent. And again, LandGraph has our work easy because we can just use this create React agent that will basically build a React agent for us. And how do we do that? First, we need to set our tools. So we'll just define here a list of with all the tools that we designed before. And we will make a prompt for our model. Oops, this is not what I wanted. And here we can just say that you are a helpful travel assistant. If given a duration for a trip, you should suggest a detailed daily itinerary with activities, meals and accommodations. And then let's add more details. So you should suggest detailed bullet points for each day. Now, if we wanted to use our weather and make sure it does that, let's just do this. So make sure to include the weather forecast for each day and the best activities based on the weather. Let's also tell it to search the web for flights, hotels, and activities as needed. And tell it to tell me the links directly if I need to book. Make sure to include a link to book it. That's all right. And let's tell it to use the current date to search for activities and events that will happen at that time. Okay. Yeah, we added a lot of information, but I think it's all right. And now something else that I said before, I talked about the prompt, I've talked about the tools, but we actually need the memory. And again, LangChain has us covered here as well. We can just import again here from LangGraph the memory. So it will actually, for each call that we make, we will be able to pass in an ID of sorts for this conversation, and then it will be able to keep that memory without us needing to managing it ourselves. So we just initialize it here. And now let's actually put everything together. We just do create React agent with our model that we've initialized, the tools, and it's in here, it's not prompt, it's state modifier. And the checkpoint is memory. So like this, we have our agent, and actually we can visualize the graph, since I've told you that LandGraph functions as a graph, so you can visualize the way that your agent will behave. For that, you do graph, get graph, draw mermaid PNG. And just like that, you have the start, the agent, which we'll call the tools, and end. So a simple React agent architecture. So now, what is left is to just test everything that we've done so far. And for that, I'll actually just drop here a print util function, so it's easier for us to just see everything. No need to get into detail about that. And let's actually run a simple query. So for that, let's just set a configuration so that we have the memory, as I told you before. And the way that we do it is like this. With thread ID. So for this thread in here, I'll just put in the number 1. But of course that if you have an application, you'll be setting this ID different for each thread that you want. So let's just do it like this for now and actually send in an input. So here, messages. Let's call it user. And what do we want to ask our agent is plan a 3-day trip to Milan. That will happen in 2 weeks. I'm traveling from Porto, so it actually knows from where to book my flights. Okay, so now we have our input and our configuration. Let's just print stream and use our graph with stream. And let's set here and let's go. So here we can actually see the messages and what it does. So it's calling the tool to get the system date, to get the weather, to it actually did the search as well. So it used all the tools that we have, and it's coming up with a response now, which we can see very well. And I'm actually going to take this output out of here and put it in Markdown so we can see it better. So as you can see, yeah, it did a search. It told me how much I would have to pay to go to Milan if I didn't have the flights booked yet, and it tells me where I can book them. It has all the bullet points with the different parts of the day. It tells me where I should book tickets for activities and everything. So it's super cool to see it all come to play just like this. So, and now just to test our memory, we can add another question. Let's just say that I want to know, with the same thread ID and everything, if there will be Christmas markets open when I go to Milan. And here I did not even tell it that I was going to Milan. It will just fetch all that information from before. It will use the search tool, and it tells me that it will actually be open. It's open towards the end of November, and I can enjoy the festive cheer and explore the seasonal stalls and activities during my trip. So it's all super useful and up-to-date information. And just like that, you have a simple agent that you can build yourself in like around 30 minutes. And this is just the beginning. You can add a lot of functionalities to it. And this is the easiest way to do it, of course, but you can add a lot more difficult to it and a lot more functionalities by using LandGraph. So yeah, this is all I had for you today. I hope it was useful and insightful for you, and happy coding.